what do you do to prepare your students for life? They're asking people about what do school districts do. And so I said, well, I can't speak for school districts, but I know what we do with our kids. And it sounds so simple, but it's so difficult to explain. We really just let them make choices and cope with the consequences. I mean, we're there to be with them throughout those consequences, whether it's pain or frustration, but we just let them decide. We let them decide so much about what they do throughout the day. And I think the reason we do that is based on what Magda Gerber said, which was falling and getting back up is the best preparation for life. And I can't think of any other one thing that would prepare people for life more than making a decision and dealing with the consequence of that decision.
Good morning, vlog. Two predictions I have here. Dr. Ping Shi shared an article to a video to one of our groups that talked about the alt school. What will the school of the future look like? I think there's kind of two tracks that we're on. And one is that institutionalization of school is going to keep increasing. And so alongside that, you're going to see more and more families pull out of school to do homeschooling, and especially unschooling is going to become more popular. And that's one track that we can go on. It may come to a place where that's sort of sustainable, that all the kids that really dislike, or all the families that want out of the system, kind of tend to get out, or that number is going to be so big that either the school changes or the school system really suffers and becomes more like a mental health institute, what we hear of in the past, where we'll look back on how we treated kids in schools, and we'll be just blown away by how horrible we treated students. I think that is the more likely option, because I don't see public schools adopting a truly personalized learning approach. But I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic that they can, and that's part of what I want to do in our school, is actually show how respect can work and democracy can work. Still need a lot of things that I need to read. I need to visit more schools that are doing it, and we need to get our school off the ground so that we can start learning ourselves. So if you come across this and you're a teacher or a school leader and you're interested in living in Indianapolis, get in touch with me, and we're looking to start building our team.
It's important to me to explain a little bit about where I come from. And one of the best ways I've found to describe myself is just being an apathetic teen and then turning into this college ace. So that's what my LinkedIn profile says. Apathetic teen turned to college ace. And I guess that's exciting. I think the problem with that is I didn't go back to college until I was 26. I wasn't just apathetic. I mean, I was rebellious. I wasn't one of those kids that went, just went ballistic. I mean, but I didn't do homework for the most part, especially reading. And one of the first steps that I think in my development, when I was around, I think I was 25, was I was working for a music store, and at that music store, the owner was a Christian. And we were developing a relationship. We had a good relationship. We laughed together. He treated me like an adult, and I think that was really good. And then we would talk about things, and I was becoming more interested in the conversations about scripture they were having. And all of a sudden he he challenged me, and not without my permission. I was dating a girl at the time, and I knew what he was talking about. He said, I don't know if you're being good, but if you want to be a Christian, you need to be. And I think that single statement probably impacted my life more than any other statement I had ever heard, because he didn't say you have to do this. I think I may go too far to say it, but he may be the first adult who said to me that you have a choice. And I took that choice. I mean, I said, you know what? I do want this. And I think it may have been that day that I took his Bible or something. I'm not sure. He gave me his Bible. And I just started reading feverishly. I broke up with my girlfriend because we had been sexually active, and that wasn't the way I wanted to live my life. And I didn't break up with her because of that. She felt rejected, and I think maybe not rightly so, but so the relationship continued for a little while, and then we broke up. And so that was really a big step. And as I began to study the story of Jesus, that hearing him speak or reading him speaking in the scriptures was so powerful to me. And this was long before I was a teacher. It was before I went to college. It was before I was married. And it was, I had grown up in the church, but it was like I was hearing some of these things for the first time. And so I felt like it was an important part of my development. And there's other stages of that development that I went through. But it was important for me to capture that and to continue telling that story, because I don't want to belittle it. And I know there's a lot of people who struggle with the idea of faith out there. And so some people may feel like it's not, this is insignificant. And I can only really share from my experience. It changed my life. And I think for a while I used to be ashamed of that. But I'm not anymore. One thing that I worry about in schools is that the way that children are not allowed to make decisions means that they end up choosing something that they think is their passion, and it's not. It ends up being a way out. And I think that's what it was for me, is just whatever's going to give me freedom. So some people, for them, that's being a lawyer. Some people, for them, that's being a rock star or an athlete. It's just whatever they're doing at the time, they're like, this is my passion. And I think the reason they find that it's their passion is because I don't want to say it. This happens to me so often, I forget how to say things. They end up doing something because of how they feel when they do it. But that doesn't mean it's a passion. It's, in a lot of ways, that means, I think I may have just hit a squirrel, I'm not sure. I am watching where I'm going, I promise. I'm not looking at the camera. So the way that we pick our passions, I think it's short-sighted to pick something that you just feel good doing, because this is something that you're going to have to do again and again and again. And it's something that you're going to have to do for free sometimes. And it's something that you're going to have to do for somebody that you don't like. Not that you have to do it, but you're going to have these opportunities where it's either eat today or create this thing for somebody that maybe you don't like working with. And so I'm just thinking about that, and I feel like if students are allowed to pursue their interests at the youngest of ages, then they learn how to discern or discriminate between, I think discern is a better word. They learn how to discern between something that they enjoy doing and something that is passion for them. And I think a lot of that, and Don Wettrick does this in his classroom, it comes down to solving problems. I think that's what most people love. That feels so good to help someone solve a problem. The key, I think, comes back to, can I help someone solve a problem and do something I enjoy? So for example, like being a plumber. Not every plumber loves their job. It's something they can do, they're good at it, and it solves a problem, so they get some satisfaction out of that. I mean, it meets a need, but they're maybe not passionate about it. So I think the goal is to marry your desire to help people solve problems and to do something that you love. So one of the problems that I really want to solve is, or I love to help people solve problems, but I also love conversations. So, when I think about that, it's like, well, maybe a counselor is the best way to go. But it's like, I've already been back to school and I got my teaching degree. I don't want to go back and get a master's in counseling and then set up that practice. Plus, and maybe this all comes down to marketing, but I don't want to just deal with people at their lowest. I want to help people from getting to their lowest point, because once you're at your lowest, it is so challenging to meet with you and work with you, unless I'm going to start some institution where it's 24/7, and then the pricing model of that is really challenging too. So I went off on a little tangent there, or maybe you would call a big tangent. Again, that's why it's called day one, because every day is brand new. I don't know where I'm going sometimes, because I'm reforming myself, and you just don't know. All right, listening to some music on the way to my meeting. I don't need that. This is an exciting meeting. I'm meeting with Andrew. Now I forgot his last name. Sorry, Andrew. Fuel VM. He's got a lot of experience with ebooks, and honestly, I want to finish this thing. I have a vision for the design, but I just don't feel like I have the patience for it. So I'm going to ask them to oversee that process. I want this book to kind of look like an Instagram, where you have a picture and there's a quote maybe on the picture, and then there's a little description of that. So very excited for this conversation, and I'm going to try to record that and get his feedback from it. I really what I'm looking for is, I want him to look at this and say, okay, this is what we need to finish this book. Because the idea was to have it done by May 1st, and it's April 24th, and we're not even done designing yet. So once it's designed, then I'll actually probably go back and revise it, kind of based on what we're feeling like. But I think what he's going to help me with is help me figure out who my audience is, and then we're going to tailor the design to that. There will be an investment in this. I'm looking to spend maybe close to $1,500 to have them advise and do this. That seems worth it to me. If he's going to tell me, well, it's going to be $2,500, that's probably going to be a little high. And actually, this is this is the first time I think I've ever even had my budget beforehand. And my process for determining my budget right now is based solely on feeling. Like, okay, I could spend, if based on what I want, if I could spend $1,500 on that sounds good. But $2,500, ooh, that sounds high. That's a lot. Like, I could just put it on a PDF for free, and it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. So that's an area that I think that I could really grow in, is trying to figure out the value of something. So I'll be looking forward to that conversation. Okay, so here is something I think I really struggle with. Had a meeting with Andrew Curtis from Fuel VM about the project. He's excited. He likes it. The price, I mean, he's still going to put together the budget and kind of figure out where we're going from there. But I recognize in me this temptation of like, well, let's just go with it. And so patience for me is so frustrating. It's like I just find something to do and then I just do it. I've done that with pretty much every job I've ever gotten, with girlfriends that I get. It's whatever is the path of least resistance. And I know it's natural to do that, but I know it's not good, and I don't know where I missed that sort of wisdom. I know my dad tried to instill that in me and talk to me about being patient and playing a longer game, and I don't know where I missed that piece. So I feel like I keep finding hints of where I missed it, but it's not completely figured out. And so I'm just not really trying to figure that out, but I'm recognizing that I have a tendency to be impatient, and when I want to launch something, I just go for it. So the budget, he's thinking around a few grand to do this project, and that's like, for a bigger book he mentioned somewhere around 10 grand, and I was just like, ooh man, I cannot imagine putting 10 grand into this. But at the same time, I've got to learn to evaluate things from a value perspective and not just take the short game on it. So that's what I'm thinking so far. Got some feedback from one of the writers that I reached out to, and the price was coming out around $500 to $700 per article. So what I was looking for was a weekly article. So we're talking about anywhere from $2 grand to $2,600 for a writer. And I mean, that's just like, right now it just feels insane. I mean, that's just too high for the value that I think I'm going to get out of it. So what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to focus a little bit more on I've got one more meeting with the writer. I mean, I think we're looking at maybe $100 to $200, or there's a possibility that I could use a writer to write some of those longer articles and publish those on like almost like an essay, and publish those with the website, and then go shift my focus to the blog being just capturing the journey and just sitting down and making myself doing it. So much of that stuff that I'm doing for this video already. So I can use that blog as a way to capture some things happening from time to time. And so that's where I'm at right now. I got 10 more minutes in this other meeting. What I'm really excited about is the meeting with the virtual assistant staffing company. So I've really got to start thinking about what I want to put money into. And to me, that one seems like the big one, because if they could help service the site at kind of a low cost, I think that would really help. And back to what I was saying earlier about patience, is like, I feel like I'm just trigger happy. I'm ready to just pull the trigger on something and get something happening, but I can't get too pumped up about that. I mean, I'm pumped up, but I can't get too excited and move too fast on things. About halfway through the Crushing It book by Gary Vaynerchuk, loving every second of that. Was just spending some time playing some video games, watching, listening to that tonight, and still absorbing a lot of it. I guess it's probably 3/4 of the way through. One thing that I think that I'm doing that I'm really excited about is, so we have this rental in near our house, and I'm allowing a few friends of mine who are starting up a new company to use the space. And I've been learning from other entrepreneurs that early in your process, you just want to provide value to people. And so they were talking to me. I'm really excited about their business, Sun Funded, and I just wanted to give them a place to just hang. And then I thought, well, if they're here, it's gonna be kind of a co-working space, and I can kind of learn from them. So I've already helped introduce them to a few people. They're introducing me to new people, and just learning a lot about that business planning process and starting to understand some of that lingo. So I'm really excited to be documenting some of that and start to look at starting to think more deeply about a business plan instead of just going into what I can do, thinking more intentionally about what I want to do and what I get excited about.